What's a red flag when looking for a job? I had a team lead interview me for a contract once say bluntly, "You don't want to work here, it's horrible." He was right and still undersold the experience somehow. And you still took the job. Come on, man. Temporary 3 to 6 month contract. I completed the project and moved on to the next contract. Places who always say they're hiring and always taking applications, but you never actually see anyone new being trained or anything. It means people are quitting constantly and management isn't hiring new people, so they are critically understaffed on top of poorly managed. Looking at you, Home Depot, with your 5 employees and permanent hiring sign. I turned down a second interview for a position in which the interviewer said something to the effect of, "If your boss emails you on a Friday night, you don't have to respond, but you know how that looks." Made it pretty clear that they expect work to be your first priority. It looks like I don't want that job, lol. Hiring lots of people on the same position. Everyone who calls gets a job often means the job is either bullshit or they're setting you all up to compete for the actual job. I had this once. Turned out it was commission only. Door-to-door vacuum sales. I did that for a month. My breaking point was when I was told I couldn't carry any water with me in what is essentially desert climate in middle of summer. Was told to request a glass of water from random strangers. Same if I needed to use the bathroom. I wound up so parched I was risking real dehydration, and the other salespeople had the nerve to drink all my water. Oh. And I sold a grand total of 3 vacuums. I actually has 5 sales. But I quit on a Friday, and by Monday they claimed my last 2 sales were cancelled, and I now owed them something like $150 for accessories. Convinced them to zero out my entire account and just close it. Eater, since I have a lot of replies asking which vacuum. It was Kirby. Worked a job doing door-to-door solar power sales. Similar thing happened to me. First few weeks I had my backpack with my water and jumper and a bit of food to keep me going as I was walking like 8 hours a day. Got a new team leader and he said no bag and I can't take my jumper because it looked unprofessional. This was close to winter with rain most days. I left pretty much the next day. When they should talk previous employees, they're going to do it to you. Same goes for them insulting current employees behind their back. I saw that during my orientation. 2 supervisors were loudly talking about how useless an employee was after they got off the phone with him. Even if it's true, the fact that they don't care who hears them is a sign of a toxic work environment. Typical behavior of managers who like to deflect blame for their own mistakes onto employees. Basically a symptom of a terrible boss. When they say you could be earning 6 figures in less than a year, when the posting lists the salary ranges $50, $000, $300, $000, that means it's an all commission sales job. Also, the only way you will see 6 figures will be to rob a bank on the way home from work. Always ask them why the person you are replacing left the job. The way they answer this could be a red flag. I took a security guard job in college as a part-time gig. In the interview the owner said the guy I was replacing was just lazy. On my first day I asked one of my coworkers, and it turns out he was shot in the face while on duty. Too lazy to drive himself to the hospital, I guess. If the guy couldn't even keep bullets out of his own body, how can he be expected to keep people out of a building? Making jokes about overtime and crunch time. Guaranteed it's going to be a nights and weekends are optional, but not actually optional, place. I went to an interview where the guy said we don't end the day until everyone is done, and sometimes that takes another hour on a busy day. Then my genius brain said, yeah, I don't want to work constant overtime. What was I thinking, expecting to go home when my contract says I go home? In reality, maybe an hour overtime can easily turn into 2 hours overtime every day. Having to pretend this is normal is toxic AF. When I was a GM for Chipotle I would constantly work 12+ hour days, salary, and one busy weekend I worked 15 hours on Friday and 15 on Saturday, and on Sunday I decided to go to the gas station and eat my donuts in my car and just listen to the radio for like 10 extra minutes to just kind of unwind. You better believe the area manager was there the next day with a write-up in hand, because I was 10 minutes late on Sunday, but when I asked what about the other 10 extra hours I put into my store the previous days, that's just part of the job description. Initially unpaid, but will result in full-time offer upon completion of this. This will be an excellent chance to expand your portfolio and gain lots of exposure with leading global brands. Graphic designer here. My favorite response to this: you can die from exposure. Apostrophe. Earning potential is stressed over current salary. I applied to a place where they were offering me 30% less than what I was currently making. They said that's because you'll be making that up in your performance bonus plus more. Hard pass from me on that one. Such a slap in the face of an offer. My last place tried to do that to a new hire on my team. Offered her 2k less and bonus would take her 2k above her current salary. Almost screwed a full month of interviews for 2k. This was a red flag I had during an interview process once. I was doing a phone interview for an IT position and the person I was interviewing with basically changed the details of the job during the interview. Instead of the first shift hours the position promised, he immediately went into saying it would be 6+ months before the opportunity for first shift would even be a possibility. Also, he was begin to asking how dedicated I was to jobs. The idea of weekend shifts, again, not in the original description, kept coming up, and how everyone had to be a team player and help out on weekends when needed. The kicker was when he started talking about how many hours he worked. He was bragging that he was up at 6 AM every day working. Then he'd go into the office for the day, come home to see his family for dinner, and get right back to work until 10 to 11 PM every night. I had never been turned off from a job faster in my life. He asked me to think things over, and he'd send me some paperwork via email. Needless to say, I called him the next morning and declined the job. It was the worst interview process I'd ever been in. I'm in it as well. Some of the interviews I had before landing my current job were very similar. Had one interview where the manager belittled one of the techs just before he walked into the room. Probably didn't realize the door was open lol. I'm really lucky though, since my current position is awesome. I work with some really friendly people. It's a small company and that's what I prefer. I just got a job in a small, friendly company too. They gave me the whole "we're a family" line in the interview, which normally makes me throw up in my mouth a little. But it came across as genuine for once. I took the role on gut feel and it's great. People listen to me. It's too small a company to ignore anyone. People are valued as individuals rather than being expected to fit a standard employee template, which in it tends to be young, quiet and bearded, none of which I am. And they are appreciative when you get things done, rather than nitpicking as an excuse not to reward you. The latter is especially annoying when you don't care about money or promotion, but just want a bit of respect. If you ask them what the pay is, and they start off with what you could be making after so much time and they start rambling about the raise process, run the other way. During my last interview for an entry-level semi-skilled press operator position, the hour guy says my pay will be like this. If you hit your rate every day, factor in your attendance bonus. Then if you go over rate we'll pay you piece rate. They don't. I checked. And if the packing line gets your orders out on time and your quality is high enough, and we don't get docked with any fees, a process over which I'll have no control, after I wrap my pallet, you'll be making $15. 20/hours. Or more if you sign up for Saturdays. But that's not what I asked. I asked what my base pay was going to be, to which he replied, 61/hours. No thank you. I've never heard such a complete pile of rune around bullshit. The more complicated the pay structure, the worse it is. It's fine if there's a normal commission or normal bonus for meeting your personal goal. But when they start adding on qualifiers and a bunch of extras, then it's either a scam to get you hired, or they really just don't care about employees and only care about bottom line, or both. Looking for rock stars in the job description. Unless of course the posting is in fact for a position to be a rock star. Similarly, ads that read along the lines of, "Do you like sports? Come be a part of our team. We are laid back and have fun. We want all of our MVPs to succeed. So we work hard. And we play hard too." If they are trying to sell you on the work environment in the ad, Most of the time, you should run. I'm sure there are exceptions, but most of the time, you can substitute rock stars and sports and MVPs in all these ads interchangeably, with all of it loosely translating to, we are gonna load a bunch of you up in a van at the but crack of dawn to drop in neighborhoods for door-to-door cold calls selling cutlery. This needs to be further up. A good job doesn't get all flashy. They don't need to convince you. They know what you want. You're thirsty for a good job. They've got it. There's a confidence to a good job you can vibe when they are desperately telling you why you want to work there. Either you're overqualified for the position by a long shot, or the position is dog shit, and either way you're not getting paid enough. I got a call from a Subway I applied to telling me my interview was in 10 minutes. That was the first I heard from them after submitting my application. So, years ago, my old company was hiring a mechanical engineer job, but the director of the department suddenly had a family emergency and had to go out of town the next day. They called the last applicant and said, "Can you come in and interview?" Like now? The candidate explained that he was out and about and couldn't get dressed or anything. The director basically said, "Don't care." That's how the dude that got the job got to interview in a black band t-shirt and ripped jeans. So, before you red flag it, make sure that a sudden interview isn't warranted. They did this kind of poor scheduling to the newest guy in my department, except it was more like, "Hey, we want to interview you, but the only openings in all 3 of our schedules are 3 hours from now, 2 days from now, or maybe next week." He chose the 3 hours and 8 months later is one of our best employees. The only red flag there is that the upper management is always busy, but if you hate micromanagement, it's perfect. High staff turnover. If the job description has about 20 items, of which one is sales, your job is going to be sales. If the job description has multiple items, then the majority of your duty is going to be the worst one of those items. A bit like occasional weekend means occasional weekend off. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more daily Reddit videos.